Hello, Super Geeks, and welcome back to the Script Heroes podcast. Today, we're going to be running through the Summer of Superman special so that we can be prepared for the new era of Superman that is on the horizon. Jay,
Yeah.
of Modern Superman, what are you reading right now?
Currently nothing. I was reading
Same.
Action Comics when Philip Kennedy Johnson was writing it, but I fell off fairly quickly after the War World saga. So I'm very unprepared. I read a couple issues of the Connor Kent series that had come from that round robin, I
Mhm.
think last year, maybe the year before at this point. So I am very uninvolved in the current Superman stuff outside of Justice League Unlimited. But I think that's the nice thing about this, and I know you love a good jumping in point, and this
I
book is
love a
really
jumping in point.
meant to be that, despite the books all being ongoing. So I think that's
Yeah.
a cool thing.
Yeah, I had also not been reading much Superman. During Dawn of DC, I started picking up like mainline Superman title. Uh
That was still
and
Joshua Williamson at that point, right? He's been doing it for a little while now, hasn't he?
yes, I
Yeah.
believe so. But I read the first couple issues and then like it's on my pull list. I still buy them. I just
There you
have
go. Katie's still
years to
giving
catch
them
up on at
money.
this point. Like it's not the comic's fault that I'm bad at reading the things that we don't read for the podcast.
Yeah, me
But
too.
so we're both going into this with I think a lot of room for Superman in our lives.
Yeah. Oh,
So
I did also read the beginning of Steelworks, but I also fell off that. That's just because that actually plays into one of
it sure
the
does.
main couple of characters in this one this book. So felt the
It
need to throw that out
absolutely does. But what a great segue. We're going to take you through everything that's happening in this issue, this Summer of Superman special, and we're going to take a look forward at what's coming and maybe figure out if any of it is enough to make us want to throw it onto our pull lists.
That's right.
If you see something that you want us to review, let us know, and we'll add it to the pull list rec. We'll go through it
Absolutely.
on the pod. But
Yep.
without further ado, we begin with the past.
Yeah. So basically, we start with actually let me get into the creative team of this chapter first because that's important. The writer is Mark Waid, and the artist of actually the whole book outside of the epilogue is Jorge Jimenez. We also have a letter of Dave Sharp, and do we have separate colorists, or is it just? I think it's just Jorge Jimenez doing it. So
Nice.
there you go.
The man can do it all.
Which I feel like I need to start with Jorge Jimenez. Fantastic throughout this whole issue.
So good.
So good. But we open with Superman captions as his younger self and Lana Lang are chilling on his deck. And Superman tells us that this is going to be the day that he tells Lana everything about himself being Superman because he's realized that he is in love with her. But before he can do that, he realizes that he sees Validus, a villain who he has fought in the future with the Legion, kind of rampaging. So he needs to make up a stupid excuse that he ate too many pancakes and is having stomach issues, and he bursts into action with Crypto because Mark Waid could not resist that.
You gotta have Crypto.
So Superboy,
I feel like this is just such peak Jorge Jimenez art. It harkens back to him drawing Super Sons, which was like some of the best art that he's done, in my opinion. So fun to see like young, gawky Clark Kent. Absolutely.
I feel like we don't get much Superboy Clark. Like I'm shocked that there isn't like just a Superboy Clark Kent going, at most times. But they don't do that. I feel like Mark Waid would jump on it right in a second. It's very true. But in any case, they fight. Clark kind of knows that he is not an even match for Validus at this point, so he's trying to talk him down, but Validus is not ready for that. Suddenly, a time portal opens up, and they get sucked into it as they fight, and they see all the past, future, present all around them as they're fighting. And Clark mentions to us in the captions that actually the Legion has installed a mental block on him so that he will not remember anything that he sees regarding his future self. He can look at the past though, so good for him there. But in this fight, he sees his future self, his kid, and importantly, his wife. And he was harping on the fact that Lana has red hair, so it's very obvious that this future woman is obviously not Lana. This shocks him to his core before Validus disappears and he is dropped back in Smallville. He goes back to Lana, and despite him not being able to remember seeing his future self because of that mental block, something feels off to him, and he chooses not to reveal his secret identity to Lana. And instead he tells her he's not feeling well, and he tells her to leave. And we end this chapter with him saying how happy he is that, he eventually revealed it to the right woman, being Lois, and we see John Henry Irons and Lana together in the future as well, implying everybody kind of went where they needed to go. I really enjoyed that. I thought it was a very fun young Superman story.
Yeah, I thought it was really cute. I think that I am super unfamiliar with the Legion of Superheroes stuff. Like, I've never engaged with it. I know the bare bones of it. But it's always wild to me to see young Clark Kent doing superheroics, and I think that it's a really cute thing to have happening in front and center for us. It's like, okay, yeah, this is an important part of Clark's history. This is a Clark who has, even when he wasn't, fully Superman, he was still doing superhero things.
I feel the need, because I want to ask you, did you know that I don't know if there's a retcon, but at least now in current continuity, Clark never dated Lana when they were younger? Like that, I did not know that. Unless this is the retconning of that. I don't know if this is the retcon moment, or if
no idea. And I am so ambivalent on Lana Lang. She's
I just thought it was interesting. I feel like it's always been a big thing that Lana is his young girlfriend, and I don't know if that had been retcon a while ago and I'm just behind on that, or if this is the retcon moment that we're reading and people are gonna be annoyed if we gloss over it with being here's this major retcon and YouTube just didn't even mention it.
What does throw me is that I feel like it really kind of dweebifies Clark to a weird degree, where it's oh, it didn't feel right, so I didn't say it, and I waited for the right woman, and it's Clark, you can calm down a little bit, buddy. He
it goes hard on I feel like
so much into a kind of inevitability of Clark and Lois, which I think on the one hand is nice. They are a comic couple that I like being inevitable. I think that they're a couple that I think just is so much stronger together for both of their characters. But it is a little a frou-frou,
I can see that, and I agree. But we're going to jump into chapter 2 here, and you're going to give us the rundown. But first, I'm going to tell us the creative team.
Please do.
We still have Jorge Jimenez illustrating, but we jump over to Dan Slott as the writer of this chapter, and he will be writing Superman Unlimited coming up. Oh, and if I didn't mention, Mark Waid obviously writes World Finest and is also writing Action Comics currently.
So in the present, Lana Lang and John Henry Irons are getting married. It's their wedding day, and John Kent's knee is acting up. So he's pretty sure that there's a storm coming, which is causing all sorts of, wedding day jitters. And you'll never guess who shows up as both the storm and, a familiar face. We've got Validus again. He returns in the exact same place where Clark fought him 20 years ago, you think? 20 years ago? 10 years ago?
10, I think.
Sure.
Oh, no, I guess it would be 20. They said decades, though. They made it sound like it was happening every decade, but no, it must be 20 because, it just doesn't make sense otherwise. We'll go with 20.
Yeah. Unless what we've really glossed over continuity-wise is that Clark Kent is presently 22 years old. That'd be wild.
Yeah, no. The wild thing, though, is that, I feel like the implication that we'll get to later then is that he probably showed up here 10 years ago and rampaged and Clark just wasn't there.
Well, that's fine. As the giant threat of Validus arrives, the super fam starts to suit up. We have John Henry Irons here. We have Lana Lang, who is a part of the Superman family now. She has powers. We have Nat. Do I know who Nat is?
Nat is I don't even remember when that was in this chapter. That's Henry Irons' daughter, right?
Yeah.
Was she?
I believe niece.
I don't remember. The niece, you're right.
Keeps
Adopted
Uncle
daughter,
John.
essentially.
Yeah. Okay,
yeah.
sweet.
Because she don't have parents, I believe.
She don't have parents. But yeah, she is here to help fight things.
Oh yeah,
because
briefly.
the fight is
There she is in her little hoodie. Yeah, there you go.
in her little hoodie. I like her little hoodie.
Yeah.
And of course, Lois has powers these days as well.
Yeah.
And while Superman goes to take on Validus, the rest of the Super Family works on saving civilians, which this does hit something that Jay and I have not been able to shut the fuck up about over the past like few months, couple of years maybe, where comics have really started going back to the weather events pool. Luckily, this one is over pretty quick.
Yeah.
But it is like, oh, well, the best thing that they can do right now isn't fight the supervillain. It's save people
It's
from
because they've given
tornadoes.
too many motherfuckers powers, and they need to be like, why is our actual superhero going to do the superheroing while the rest of these people have powers and we don't want them involved? It's like, weather! They can deal with the weather.
They can deal with the weather, and they do deal with the weather. They get everyone to safety while Superman fights off Validus. Validus disappears out of time again, and they immediately start the rescue effort in Smallville. Luckily, nobody died. Superman gives a very heavy-handed climate change metaphor. Not even metaphor.
Not metaphor. He just kind of goes on a rant about climate change when I thought the storm was supernatural, so...
Right? Like, they asked,
it was
like,
weird.
oh, was this because of Validus? And they're like, no, actually, it wasn't.
It's because of you.
And the things we do every day, which, like, the environment is very important. But also,
it was
Validus
weird.
Showing up and a number of tornadoes touching down all at one time, I feel like perhaps those things are connected.
Especially when they were harping on the fact that, like, the weather was not supposed to have a storm. Like, that was not, normal things. Also, could be wrong. I don't think lightning and tornadoes are the kinds of weather issues you have because of, human involvement of, like, fucking up the environment.
They are caused by pressure systems. As someone who lives in college, lived much closer to tornado areas. So, like, if the weather pressure is fucked up, that can cause more tornadoes. But it's not what you normally think of. No,
it was a weird moment to put in there based on, like, what had transpired. Where he was like, supervillain just destroyed your town. I'm gonna lecture all of you about climate change.
Yeah, okay, and it was also... I don't know. It was just weird to have in, because Jay and I were talking about this book, that it is, a book on its own, but it is also, an ad for Superman. Like, there's a reason DCUI put it up, I believe, for free immediately when it dropped. Because they want you to read it and get invested in Superman. So it feels weird to have, like, a theme, I guess, or like a lesson in it, because it's like, no, the message of this book is buy Superman books. It was just odd to read in there.
It was oddly placed, but it's also a small moment, so
exactly.
it doesn't really derail. It doesn't really derail the story in any way. So
and importantly, Validus doesn't derail the wedding. I mean, he derails it, but it gets back on the rails. Lana makes a kind of high and mighty, lovely statement about not letting circumstances prevent you from, having joy in your life, and she's gonna have this now, even though supervillain attacked. She does still call it a perfect day, and that's the present for us.
Yeah, and we're gonna we have more present actually, unless we consider one day in the future.
We call it the future, so I guess it is.
I mean, I think the future is more of the the epilogue.
For sure.
We'll get to.
But who's the creative team on chapter 3?
Yeah, so we have Joshua Williamson jumping on the right. He's the writer of the main Superman book. And we have now added in art finishes, which I essentially think mean is going to be inking, pretty much, which is Belen Ortega. I'm guessing Jorge Jimenez was a little bit behind here, so we had him jump on.
He's doing a whole big book himself.
Great job.
Very fair.
No, super fair. And it's not like he didn't continue to do other books. Like, he is doing multiple books constantly.
DC loves Jorge Jimenez, and so do I.
Yeah. So we get the actual wedding here, between Lana and John Henry Irons. Nice moment. But then we jump forward to the next day, where Superman is with Mr. Terrific, and Omen, interestingly, who we hear is a new member. Actually, I think we've seen her. It's hard to not remember, remember in the
Yeah, who
giant
shows
cast
up
of
at the
Justice League
various
Limited.
Justice League
Yeah,
meetings.
yeah. But I believe we've seen her in one of the recent issues. I think she did something. If I remember, I remember them like needing mind control powers. So I think she did something. Anyway, Mr. Terrific is able to create a portal that essentially yanks Validus out of the time stream, which honestly is a really cool, rad visual. I really, really enjoyed it. And we then
really liked that it's it's kind of like it opened a doorway, but Superman still had to go in and pull him out. I thought that was goofy in a way that I really liked.
No, I think it worked quite well. And then basically we get Omen is here to try to actually like tap into Validus's mind and figure out what's going on. And they battle for a very short period of time actually before he disappears. And Omen tells us that she actually sensed that he wasn't attacking; he was running away. Which is quite interesting. We get some nice then Clark Kent, civilian meeting up with his friends and family to eat some pizza. But then we jump to the important thing, which is this epilogue where we see that Validus has actually been pulled to the future and also an alternate Earth, presumably, but that's not really mentioned. Where we get, for the first time since the All-In Special, the I'll call them Darkseid's Legion. They're the Absolute Universe Legion, and we see that they have Booster Gold captive, which is finally has it been? It hasn't been quite a year, has it been, since the All-In Special? It's been 8 or 9 months or something like that. I think.
Yeah, because it was at the end of last summer.
Yeah, but a decent amount later, and we finally get a follow-up on this, which I think we were both super interested in and excited to see where it goes. And I really like the Absolute Legion. I think they seem really cool. I'm very excited about that. So I'm gonna start off right away with telling you that Superman issue 28, where that story is going to continue, is I think what I'm most excited for spinning out of this. I'm very, very excited to see where that goes, and I have a feeling we'll probably throw that into our Absolute recaps because it's probably going to be important for the Absolute universe. But we've got to kind of break down the three things here. Action Comics, continuing with Mark Waid and Skylar Patridge, starting with 1087, is going to be seemingly similar to what he's doing right now in the Justice League event. Is going to be Superman's past colliding with his future.
Mark Waid loves dipping into the past right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, he writes. He's kind of like the figurehead of DC's past right now, so I guess it makes sense that he wants
to like all the World's Finest, Teen Titans, actual World's Finest. I feel like we got teased about a new World's Finest series that hasn't manifested.
I don't know. I think everybody assumed it was a series, but I think it was just that Green Arrow, Green Lantern one shot.
That tracks.
We were like being told, oh, there's going to be a new book in the World's Finest line. And everybody's like, oh, book, series. But no, it was just that one shot. A very good one shot.
Oh, yeah.
But just that one shot. But then anyway, I mentioned Joshua Williamson and Dan Moore are doing Superman, and that's, going to continue this Absolute Legion storyline with Booster Gold. Crazy. Wild. Very excited for that. And then we have the new Superman Unlimited book, which I think is the thing we kind of have the least amount of information about, like what this is specifically going to be. But it's a new Superman title with Dan Slott and Raphael Albuquerque, and the little blurb we get here is Superman's world changes forever, and a Kryptonite kingdom is born. So I don't really know exactly what's going to be happening, because obviously the wedding's what we got out of his story, but that doesn't really make sense for like a story direction.
I don't know. Weddings lead to babies, and a Kryptonite kingdom is born.
Are you saying we're gonna have like another little Steel? Because we already have a little Steel with his niece. Do we need a third little Steel?
I think we're gonna get just a whole kingdom of little Steels, and instead of being made of steel, they're all gonna be made of kryptonite. It's a kingdom of kryptonite.
I think Steel has one of the raddest comic book designs. He's so cool.
Rad.
Freaking love. But yeah, so
there's a lot of cool
stuff.
I
said the one out of these that I'm most excited for coming out of this. What about you? Which of these entices you?
I'm actually kind of trepidatious about Superman. I have quite liked that the Absolute Universe has gotten to exist on its own. Like, we had the conception of it in the All-In special, but it's been allowed to just kind of exist on its own. Like, I don't know that I want it to be brought into
that crossover. Yeah.
I like it being just like completely isolated, which is also why I like the World's Finest stories, where it's like they're in the past, so like they're not getting fucked around with other events, except for obviously now.
Yeah. Literally what's happening right now. I will say, weirdly, as I say that Superman's what I'm most excited about, interestingly, I'd be more excited if Superman wasn't in it and it was just them and Booster, because like I think Booster being lost in that world is really cool. Yeah, instead, I guess it's just going to be in the Superman series, which I guess sells better than,
I think it's also going to be interesting to see how there being this, story about the Absolute Universe is going to tie the Absolute books together, because the Absolute books have also been completely insulated from each other.
Yeah, but Scott Snyder's been talking recently about how he's writing the first crossover right now, so I have a feeling that means probably at about the end of the year, because that seems like it trickles into him being writing it right now. I feel like we'll probably at the 1 year mark get that like first crossover.
Yeah, and I guess I've been so glad to have them be so insulated. It feels really controlled in a way that, it's really hard to get in comics with Marvel and DC, where it's like everything kind of feeds into everything.
And wildly, they're both doing their first like intersection right now, because I believe Ultimate is also, I think, next month doing their first like crossover thing with I think it's called it's Spider-Man something, which is going to be Miles from the main universe crossing over with the Ultimate universe. So seemingly both companies at the same time decided time for crossover.
What if they didn't? So I'm a little nervous about this. But there's a lot going on with the Super family. We're also gonna have a new ongoing series for Supergirl. The feed just cut
with
out
Sophie Campbell. I'm quite excited for that. Yeah.
Jay, obviously big fan of Super Campbell. Sophie Campbell.
Oh, Super Campbell. That's actually good.
She's Super Campbell now.
That's good. That's good. Yeah.
But yeah, from her work on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So we'll see how that looks. I think that's one that I'm particularly interested in. There've been Supergirl has a really weird history of interpretations, and I think that she
might be the character with like the most diametrically opposed personalities that have been like done for her. I will say, just knowing the types of stories that Sophie Campbell writes, we might not be getting my favorite personality for Supergirl,
which is like Red Lantern style Angry Kara.
Yeah, I like Angry Kara. I like Angry Kara. I feel like it's a good opposition to Superman, especially if she comes in, she like looks more innocent, but she's actually like the one who's more pissed off and like, just gonna punch a bunch of giant demon dudes and kick their ass,
Because she's been hanging around in Action Comics. I don't know what her role there has been, but I feel like she has such an interesting character setup where she remembers Krypton and like, in an almost Martian Manhunter-y way, had her planet taken away from her. So I hope that that's gonna come through. I hope we're gonna get a cool take on Kara. But she's not the only one with books happening. Crypto has a book. I love that they specifically advertise his team-ups. I think that's super goofy. Love it. But the writer on this is going to be Ryan North, who I believe has done Spider-Man stuff. He also... Did he do Stray?
Maybe. I'm not going to
Stray Dogs might be what it's called.
Potentially. There is a book called Stray Dogs. That's a thing. Yeah. For sure.
And I don't know if I'm getting that confused with a book that Tony Fleeces did. But in any case.
That sounds like a Tony Fleeces book, honestly.
Well, I think one of them...
Here.
And I think Tom King also did a book called like Pound recently. There's been a lot of dog comics.
I'm going to look it up while you quickly tell
the artist is going to be Mike North. So Mike North is doing the art. I think we get a little a little shot of that in the team up section there. But yes, the best super pup on Earth is gonna get a little 5-issue limited series. The Last Dog of Krypton, which I think is super dweeby, and I love it dearly.
Okay, so Stray Dogs is Tony Fleece's, and Stray...
I was letting the dog get to my brain.
...is not Ryan North.
Damn. I think he's done Spider-Man, though. That feels like, kind of a dart in a dark room. I love that
both Stray and Stray Dogs existed, though, and they were just neither one of them were him.
Iconic.
He's done Squirrel Girl. There you go.
There you go. In any case, that is Krypto, the Last Dog of Krypton. There's also going to be a big old series, a little 12-issue maxi, The Adventures of Superman, Book of L. That's coming to us from Philip Kennedy Johnson, who I believe, Jay, you're a pretty big fan of.
I do. I like him, especially for Superman. So that should be very.
What was his Superman book?
So he was doing Action Comics for the longest time, but particularly the War World Saga, I think, was incredibly well acclaimed. And so that's when I jumped on. I got the trades for that phenomenal story of Superman on like a gladiator planet. Very, very
Gotta love it. And the artist on that is going to be Scott Goldlewski. Pretty cool looking stuff there. Super twins, apparently. Very wild. He's gonna have to team up against them. 12-issue series. This one isn't grabbing me as much as some of the mainline ones, but we'll see. Yeah. We'll see. Maybe we'll do a big ol' Superman appreciation. Very importantly, look at this beautiful Bruno Redondo art. But yeah, there's gonna be a big ol' Superman one shot.
On Super, like, was he the artist that was on Superman before this latest run? Like, I thought he went to Superman when he left Nightwing. I don't know why I feel like that. Maybe he just did a couple of fill-in issues.
I don't think he was like the regular artist on Superman.
Yeah, but I thought he went and did, like, I thought at one point when he jumped off Nightwing, he did, maybe not the main artist, but I think he did either a Superman or a couple Action Comic issues. Maybe I'm making that up. But
I hope he did. Literally, the more Bruno Redondo art.
Seeing that.
Yeah. But this is Bruno Redondo doing the art, so I'm probably gonna get this one. So I'll probably try to get Jay to get in on this one too.
She says that like I usually resist so much to things.
He doesn't. He's very accommodating of all of. We're pretty good at indulging in each other's comic loves.
The thing is, we have to indulge Katie when we already have like 7 books on a week, and she's like, "But there's this other thing."
It's not my fault that they put all the stuff that I like on the same weeks.
But hopefully we gave you a good rundown of that, and hopefully DC's not too mad that we flipped through the book, but they put it up for free because they want you to get the Superman book. So hopefully that'll work out. But let us know which of these Superman books, if any, you will be picking up. And of course, Katie mentioned earlier, let us know if you want us to be reviewing any of them. Should we be reviewing Superman within the Absolute episodes, or is that something that you think deserves its own thing, or to be in a main episode? Let us know all of your thoughts. And as always, we hope to see you next week. Comic Geeks.